And now, on the Vintage Vibe.
Hey guys, quick little bonus piece here today on the Vintage Vibe. We're going to do something a little different. I don't normally do these, but we're going to do a unpackaging and a first look at a brand new turntable released by Project. Now I know it's not vintage, but you know, occasionally it's nice to see some other stuff that's out there and some new gear in case you are looking for a new turntable. This is a hybrid between the old Project debuts and a more audiophile grade turntable. And this is called the Project Debut Pro, only here on the Vintage Vibe.
Okay guys, this might not be vintage, but this is nonetheless pretty cool. We're just about to unbox a Project Debut Pro turntable. These are quite rare to get your hands on, at least here in Ontario, Canada. They're often sold out, and I managed to get one when I was in Kelowna, BC on a business trip, and we're gonna set her up and take a peek at it and what it's all about. So first things first, we want to thank Kane for taking the time at Hi-Fi Attic to wrap this unit up for us to make it across this wide country we've got here in Canada. And he set it all up for us in advance and taken the necessary steps to make sure, again, we got it all in one piece. Now the Debut Pro is kind of a special turntable. They are kind of a limited edition, at least the first run of these units. And as you can kind of see in it, you've got a manual on how to get started and set up the actual turntable, which we won't need to do, thankfully. In a typical fashion of Project, they usually provide some pretty extensive, and easy to follow instructions of how to set up a turntable. I kind of like that. And a little 2-point cartridge alignment protractor that you can use. And then this is probably on where to go if you need to have your unit serviced. Also inside the package, we've got a little pair of RCA cables. And you know what? They're not bad quality for something that comes with a turntable. I've definitely seen a lot worse in the past. And then kind of follow inside here. This is all stuff required for setup, except for this right here. This is your drive belt. The flat belt is your typical belt for 35 and 45 RPM. And then there also is a rounded belt that's supposed to be used for 75s. Is that what they are? I can't remember. Those old shellac records. Little 45 adapter. The anti-skate weight, which we'll put on there. I guess if it's set up properly, you really shouldn't have to use it. And this guy here is for setting up the actual cartridge and the overhang on the cartridge. So let's dive a little bit deeper and take a look to see what else we got in that box. So we've got a felt mat inside there included. And this is kind of the typical, which comes with a Project turntable. We'll replace that with something a little bit better. And a little bit of packaging material removed kind of shows us the cover of the actual turntable right in here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to remove the actual cover, and we're going to get to the turntable here, take a peek at it. So we got this little triangular packaging piece which kind of fits over top of where the spindle for our turntable will sit. So we are going to kind of dig a little bit deeper and see if we can, there it is sitting underneath in there. So I'm going to put down the phone so we can get this out without damaging anything and take a peek at it. You can already kind of see here as we take it out of the box just how kind of cool this turntable is. I mean, check out the actual CNC machining here on not only the weight, but the different components in the arm, which are then, I believe, nickel plated. A nice carbon fiber arm. And then we've got our cartridge underneath there. We got to check out what type it is specifically. I think it is called the Picket, which is an Ortofon silver that's been modified. Now this kind of subplatter can be replaced with an aluminum style one if you want to upgrade it, but we won't even bother with that. The actual motor is kind of separately mounted here, and you can see up front, here's our switch for on off, which is really kind of cool. Just a very kind of down to business turntable. Inside here we've got our kind of wall wart adapter, and you can see it's got a kind of like a mounting face that allows you to plug in different style kind of prongs depending on which country you live in. That's the one we'll use right there. But I guess if you were someone who traveled abroad and you moved, you could take this turntable with you and kind of use it wherever. Now inside here we've got a really neat kind of platter with this turntable. I'm going to take time to pull this out so we don't destroy the styrofoam and take a look just at what they did to do here to make this Debut turntable a little more special. Okay, so you can see here this platter actually has I'm going to call it almost like a sponge, some sort of a anti-resonant material that they've placed in here. It's almost like a rubber type sponge material to help dampen the actual platter and prevent that ringing that's sometimes associated with metal type platters. Now this platter itself, it's got a good weight to it. I'm going to drop it on that spindle there and take a peek. And that right there is a thing of beauty. What a nice looking tone arm. Nice fit and finish. Well put together, especially in this price category. And you can see here the Picket Pro, as Project has labeled it. Really a silver cartridge that's been modified on this turntable. And to me at this point, you know, this looks like a lot of turntable for the price point. I mean, this really kind of is, you know, upper mid-fi, let's call it, for price point. I mean, we're looking at a turntable that's just over $1,000, a step up from kind of your basic Debut carbons and so on and so forth. My guess is this is going to be a real good match for the higher end Regas. Just by looking at what we've got here so far. There's a close-up of the footing on this. Higher quality RCAs, and there's your ground. Again, special thanks to Kane to getting this thing out to us in nice condition. And we're going to check the weight on the tone arm and kind of report back. Okay, so we're going to double check the actual current weight of the tone arm and see just how close it is to being set up properly and whether it made the trip across the country without being knocked and jostled about. So the cueing mechanism is quite actual loose, not loose as in you can wobble it side to side loose, but there's not a lot of resistance on that. It's not necessarily a bad thing. 1.89 ounces, and I bet this probably has a range somewhere between 1.5 and maybe 2 ounces. I haven't looked at the manual yet for the Picket Pro, but it's said to be a nice cartridge to match this particular arm, and so far has some great reviews. So this is kind of intended to be a no-hassle plug and play turntable. That's why I bought it. It's a nice addition to the Denon DP59L vintage table that I've got, which is a little more complicated of a table. And yeah, looking forward to actually plugging in, hearing how it sounds, reporting back to you guys. Join me for a review of this Debut Pro turntable on the Vintage Vibe. And some more attention to detail here. Here's kind of a close-up on the feet that they've installed on this turntable. There is 3 of them, which you can kind of see here underneath. And these are a nice, high-quality machined aluminum, it looks like. And in the center of them, there is like a spongy type of rubber material. I don't know if it's a sorbane or what it's made out of to absorb vibration. But again, another little detail to make this turntable such a nice package right out of the box. She is with the cover on. I will say the cover seems to be, as covers go, a little lower quality than some of the previous covers I've seen on the Project tables. It almost feels to be almost a flimsier plastic than before. It's got a slightly smoked kind of tint to it as well too. I'm not going to kind of get too bent out of shape out of that because it's just there to prevent dust from getting on it, but just a little comment to note there with the new Debut Pro.
there you have it, the Debut Pro. Now, is all the hype, well, does it live up to all its hype? At this point, I'll give you kind of a little tease before doing an in-depth review. It's a great table. It tracks well. That needle stays in that groove even on some difficult recordings like, for example, Solar Energy by Ray Brown, where the bass is so intense of the upright bass guitar that a lot of turntables will actually have tracking problems and skip. This doesn't seem to. It's a very musical turntable, so it doesn't try really hard to sound full and lively. It just seems to be very melodic. It is pretty easygoing, good bass. Project seems to have a thing for good bottom end, and this is no exception. The mid-range is very smooth, and everything just seems to blend together really nice. There's not one specific area that just kind of stands out or brings attention to itself. So my initial comments on this table is it seems to be a great table, and perhaps even better than upper mid-fi. Maybe it really is an audiophile grade table like they call it. I think it'll be a great candidate for a few tweaks, and I hope you enjoyed that quick video here on the Vintage Vibe. Don't forget to like and subscribe.